Hey folks, welcome to LeafGreen vs. Blue. LeafGreen vs. Blue is something of a pet project I've had going for the past 3.5 years. I haven't been working on it consistently through that time, but I've been poking around at it and opening it up and playing with it a little bit. It's a sequel series to my 2012 video series Heart Gold vs. Crystal, and it follows a pretty similar conceit. I play through the original Pokémon game, Pokémon Blue, and its 2004 Generation 3 remake, Pokémon LeafGreen. Ignoring the whole thing about LeafGreen being a remake of Green, just making it too complicated, okay, just chill out. And I use the same team in both versions, and that's where the fun part happens, because a lot of things have changed between Generation 1 and Generation 3. We've got a modified type chart, we've got different moves available, and new moves even. We've got the difference in the special stat being broken up into two, and we've got miscellaneous mechanical fixes and changes, such as focus energy working now. And so all these changes apply to both my Pokemon and my opponent's Pokemon, and all those changes are going to affect how I play the game and the strategies that I need to use. Now, this series had a lot of footage recorded for it. Literal days of footage. Footage for days, so to speak. But this is going to be a heavily edited series. I'm going to call it a greatest hits. A cynic might call it a Cliff's Notes. I like my version better. I'm going to reduce it basically to the captures and evolutions of team members, of which there are 6, and boss battles. And by boss battles, I mean rival fights, Elite Four members, gym leaders, the champion, and I think 1 or 2 other trainers that sort of resemble boss fights if you squint at them hard enough. But overall, it's going to be pretty abridged because I do not have the time, energy, or mental capability to make every single moment of both games interesting for you, the viewer. So just roll with it. It's still going to be 20 episodes. We're going to get plenty of mileage out of this thing. Now, I grabbed Bulbasaur up there, but Bulbasaur is not actually going to be a member of my team. I just showed this to demonstrate which starter my rival was getting, really, because you're going to be seeing it for the rest of the game. My first team member comes here in Viridian Forest. And those of you who are in the know about the Pokemons know that there's really not a whole lot in here that it could be. And so, that's right, it's coughing. Now, choosing Pikachu I wasn't sure if it was a controversial move or not, because he's so cliche that nobody uses Pikachu, and therefore, it's kind of refreshing. Or maybe it's just really cliche. I don't know. I haven't used a Pikachu in a really long time, so I was like, hey, let's do something new. Let's do something hip and happening and funky fresh. Pikachu, just to give a brief overview of how his stats differed between Generations 1 and 3. Generation 1, he has a special stat of 50, and you'll recall that special stat governs both special attack and special defense. In Generations 2 through 5, he has 50 special attack and 40 special defense, so his defenses are slightly lowered. Not significantly, considering that both of those are pretty low. The difference between 40 and 50 isn't that much. But then, here's the fun part. In Generation 6, his defenses got a boost. So his defense went from 30 to 40, and his special defense went from 40 to 50. So now, Generation 6, which came out after this video footage was recorded, Pikachu is back to his original special stat for all intents and purposes. It's not important because, you know, LeafGreen came out in 2004 and X and Y came out in, 2013? I think it's been so long, I'm getting so old. Doesn't matter. But, it's a little neat. And because, technically his defense has increased, Pikachu has never been more powerful. Never been more of a force to be reckoned with. Now, the thing about Pikachu is that in Generations 2 and onward, there's a hold item called the Light Ball, which makes his offensive capabilities stronger. Generation 3 is just special offense, special attack. Changes later, don't need to worry about that. In fact, we don't need to worry about any of it because I don't get the Light Ball in this playthrough, because getting a Light Ball would be a gigantic pain in the posterior. Because Light Balls appear on 5% of Wild Pikachu, and 5% of the wild encounters in Viridian Forest are Pikachu. And I'm not a mathematician, but that's a pretty low probability of finding a Pikachu with a Light Ball in Viridian Forest. So I was like, the heck with it. I'm not even sure I'll keep him as a Pikachu. He might evolve into a Raichu. You never know. So I just didn't bother. And that means I'm not going to show off the difference, and, it haunts my dreams at night. And if I have one regret in this poor, miserable, mortal existence, is that I didn't get the Light Ball for Walter in this playthrough. But that's just something that we're both going to have to live with. Anyway, first rival battle that I give a darn about is this one on the road to the Indigo Plateau. He has a Pidgey and the starter Pokemon that he picked up at the beginning of the game. So Pidgey, it's nothing to write home about because it's a normal flying type. There are a couple interesting differences in the types of its moves. So it has Sand Attack, right? And in Generation 1, Sand Attack is a normal type move that affects ghosts for some reasons. And in Generation 3, Sand Attack is a ground type move that affects flying types for some reason. So, in practicality, there's no difference. But in Generation 1, it has Gust as a normal type move. In Generation 3, Gust is a flying type move, and that means that Gust has a super effective stab advantage against Bulbasaur, if you decide to bring one, and any bug types you bring to the party. Then, Charmander. This is where I think the game designers were looking ahead and it's like, we can do something cruel and unusual here. So, in Generation 1, Charmander is level 8, and it has Scratch, and it goes like, Char. And then in Generation 3, rather, it goes to level 9. And getting that level, the stats are kind of inconsequential, but it gets access to Ember, which means it has a super effective stab move against, again, a Bulbasaur or any bugs that you bring to the party. And even if you aren't, weak to Ember, it's still 60 base power rather than 40 base power from Scratch, which, it matters. It matters. So, Charmander actually had a decent difficulty boost for Generation 3. Doesn't apply to the other starters because I believe they both get their elemental moves earlier. So Squirtle would already have Bubble and Bulbasaur would already have Leech Seed. Anyway, that wraps up the first rival battle. Don't bring bugs, and don't bring a Bulbasaur. And that wraps up, more or less, the first episode of LeafGreen vs. Blue. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm working on figuring out the right tone and balance for the commentary. If you could leave me feedback in the comments about whether you like this style of commentary, if you want more informative, less informative, let me know. And thanks for watching.